You are listening to WTUZ Radio Podcast. Welcome to WTUZ Radio Podcast. I am your host, Rhonda, and today's topic, we are in part 4 of our series, the Black Royal Bloodlines and Rulers. So this is part 4 of this series, and shout out to Sis Brooklyn Borges for sending me this book as a reference, and I'm really loving this. It's giving us the ancient Black nobility of Europe's bloodline. Okay, so the book is The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles by Dr. John L. Johnson. You can also get this on Amazon. It is for sale on Amazon. It is well worth it. So we are going to get into the material where we picked up off. So we stopped at Kenneth the Niger Dub. No, we didn't actually. Yeah, we did. Sorry. I highlighted beforehand. Okay. So if you haven't caught the rest of this series, you can go back to the first couple of episodes. And in the very first episode, we went into how this particular European bloodline that is ruling today, which shows a Caucasian bloodline through Queen Elizabeth, but nonetheless, the original bloodline, the ancient bloodline, came out of Africa. And as you progress through this series, it also talks about how the different houses were established, and not all of the houses were established of direct bloodline. Some of them were through marriage. We talked about why the different houses were established, and the consistent theme throughout this information is that the ancient royal bloodlines of Europe were melanated Black. Okay, so now we are on Kenneth the Niger. Now, this particular episode in this series, we're going to go through a lot of kings. And what I found interesting about this is that some of the kings literally were just stricken out the record or barely mentioned. Okay, so it really got me to thinking that how easily it is to just change history, rewrite history, and why even to this day it's difficult for us to get a complete picture, how we have to go to several other sources which are not the popular sources to piece together this information. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started, and you'll see what I mean about folks being stricken out the record. All right, so Kenneth the Niger Dub. Remember, Dub means Black. We know the Niger. I mean, come on now. We know what that means. Okay, it has recently been used as a negative, derogatory phrase or word to describe melanated, aka Black folks. Okay, so in other words, the N word. Okay, but the origin of this word is used to describe dark. All right, Niger. Okay, and then you also should know that Niger also refers to a river over in Africa. I want to say out of Nigeria. All right. Okay. So either way you go, it was so funny as I was doing some research. I ran across this person's blog, and it was funny because didn't appear that the person had any type of feedback on the blog, but he was trying to justify how the word Niger meant to describe hair color. Oh, okay then. So I kind of laughed. But nonetheless, Kenneth the Niger Dub. So you have two descriptives meaning black describing Kenneth. Dub means black, hence like Dublin, black land, and then Niger. So how anyone can formulate their mind to say that Niger and Dub is not describing a skin tone, it's describing hair. I am just really at loss of words. That is either lying or that is cognitive dissonance at its finest. But let's continue. The Christian Moorish convert, Pittish, Kenneth King the Niger, Black, Dub, Duff or Duffy, the great-grandson of Kenneth MacAlpine. Okay, so if you go back to the earlier 3 episodes, Kenneth MacAlpine started this particular Black European nobility lineage, all right? So he was the great-great-grandson of Kenneth MacAlpine, ruled Scotland from AD 962 to 966. This triumph king ruled 3 provinces in the Scottish Alba Highlands. He was the first son of Malcolm I MacDonald and was taken out at Forest Moray by devotees of his third cousin Cullen. Okay, so again, I want melanated folks to pay attention at these names because a lot of you carry these names today. The Scottish Chronicle of the Kings of Alba, Scotland, and the historian John Fordun called Kenneth the Niger. Kenneth's pure Negro Moorish blood continued to flow in the veins of the Scottish and British rulers. Queen Elizabeth II, the mother of Prince Charles, Andrew, Edward, Princess Anne, and grandsons, Prince William and Henry or Harry, are descendants of Kenneth the Niger. The royal King Kenneth the Niger is the 29th great-grand-uncle of Elizabeth II. Kenneth the Niger's strategic ability to lead a massive military and conquer enormous territory by which his great-great-grandfather Kenneth MacAlpine had failed to accomplish ranked him as one of the greatest kings of Scotland has ever known. The brilliant Negro King Kenneth Dub the Niger was the first king to carry out the military ambition of the celebrated King MacAlpine, whose aspiration was to unite Scotland. However, because of personal bigotry, this Scotland's king's very historical existence has virtually been erased from the pages of history. And that is absolutely correct. I spent a little bit of time trying to find information on him, and he's right. It's pretty scrubbed. So I went to archive.org. Let me blow this up for you. And it's giving the lineage of the kings and queens of Scotland And you see, let me make sure that's him. Yeah, Dub, that's him. I'm just making sure, family. So you see him in there, okay? So you see him in there. But trying to find any snippet of a biography on him, nope, not there, okay? But he is listed in the lineage under the house of Mac. See, they even say McAlpine now. See, I know I'm not crazy. I know I'm not crazy why I kept subliminally slipping calling McAlpine. I know I ain't crazy. Now I don't feel bad, right? Even here they're saying McAlpine, but the original name is McAlpine. Okay, so he is Kenneth the Dub, Kenneth the Niger Dub is listed here in the lineage, and it is in the correct order, all right? But he was stricken out of history, okay? And even here you can see, although they are listing the lineage with accuracy, look how they're depicting from a color perspective. Pure case of whitewashing, okay? Because up here they're depicting King James. No, that's far from how King James looked. But you have the black lion representing some type of crest. And we know whenever we see these crests with black animals represented of them, that is code for that is the black European lineage. Okay, so although they put the folks on here faces is white, this is just a clue for you all to know. They're giving those that know that this is really the black or melanated lineage. All right, okay, so I just wanted to show y'all that how although Kenneth the Niger was stricken out the record, he and I could see him being stricken out the record, because how could you get past Kenneth the Niger Dub? How can you get past that nickname? That would automatically, folks would have went, wait a minute, why would they call a white person or a Caucasian person a Niger and Dub? So that's why he was stricken out the record. Okay, but let's continue. Okay, so this is Cullen, the black converted Christian king, and you're going to see this consistently throughout Dr. John L. Johnson's account of the lineage. You're going to see where he's saying that all of these particular kings had to convert to Christianity. So the black converted Christian king Cullen MacInduff ruled Scotland from AD 966 to 971. He was taken out by his blood cousin Kenneth the Niger and became ruler. Cullen MacInduff's Negro Moorish blood, as was his cousin Kenneth the Niger, continued to flow in his veins of Scottish and British kings even until this day. All right, so just going to talk about how Queen Elizabeth II is descendant of Cullen MacInduff. King Cullen was taken out in a hall burning by a military leader named Amdarch. A revenge assassination for the kidnapping and assault. Okay, I can't say that word on YouTube without them being funny about it. So he was taken out as a revenge assassination for the kidnapping and assault of his daughter by Cullen. All right. So that right there, I'm like, wow, what a degenerate. And hey, it is what it is, bruh. Her father did what he was supposed to do. All right, so the mystified Cullen was succeeded by his third cousin, Kenneth II, the brother of Kenneth Dub Niger. King Cullen, who was also known as the Whelp, is an ancestor of Elizabeth II through his great-great-grandfather, Kenneth McAlpine. Now, I don't feel bad if I say McAlpine either. The king fathered Constantine III and died in 971 in Lothian. All right, so I'm just going to flip back over to, come on, cooperate. This archive.org, running down the house of McAlpine or Alpine. And you can see Cullen is there right after Dub. Okay. All right. And I can understand them not having information on Cullen with him being the degenerate that he was. I could truly, truly understand that. Okay. So let's continue. Okay, Kenneth II, the Christian converted Negro Petish King Kenneth II, 971 through 995 AD, the son of Malcolm I. MacDonald means son of a black-skinned warrior, brother of Kenneth the Niger Dub, succeeded his cousin Cullen MacIndulph. He ruled Scotland for 24 years before facing death by his own men at Fettercairn, a well-planned assassin by Lady Fenella, for taking out her only son. Baby, let me tell you, the degeneracy, folks wasn't playing with these folks. They didn't give a doggone about you being ruler or nothing. You done set up here and did something to my family member. Player, don't think we finna forget about it. Kenneth's Negro blood continues to flow in the hearts of the royal family. So just giving the lineage again, that he's the 29th great-great-grandfather of Elizabeth II. Kenneth II was succeeded by his fourth cousin, Constantine III. The king was the father of Malcolm II and one daughter. Okay, so and let's just flip back over here. Okay, so you can see Kenneth. I'm sorry, there's Kenneth II, my bad. You can see Kenneth II represented under the house of McAlpine. I'm so glad I know. I just kept saying McAlpine. I'm like, McAlpine. Now I don't feel bad. Okay. So let's keep going. All right, so Constantine III, the Christian converted Moorish Scottish king Constantine III, was the black son of Cullen. So this is Cullen's son, MacIndulph. He ruled for 18 months before he was taken out at the Battle of Rathanvraman and was succeeded by his fourth cousin, Kenneth III, the son of Kenneth the Niger, the Dub, Black, Duff, or Duffy. Okay, so as you can see, as we keep going through these particular king rulers, now you should understand why they put that law in place on how the rulership can be passed down to certain family members or whatever, because folks kept being taken out so quick. And remember when we went over that dynasty stuff, they mainly did that not only for the rulership of power, but also to make sure the assets and the estates that they set up through, all of that conquering they went around doing. Yeah, taking other people's stuff to make sure that it stayed within their empire. Okay? So as you can see, we're going through these different rulers. They're getting taken out left and right. Okay. Where to the point where they have to wind up pulling in cousins and things to sit on these thrones. All right. His Negro Moorish blood still flows in the veins of every king and queen throughout modern Europe. Okay, so he just goes on to talk about how they tie back to the Windsors today. Okay, because remember that Windsor name was it's new. It was sanctioned by George. It had to get approval. Okay. So the start of this Windsor name is the start of what we see today as the Caucasian bloodline. So as we go through this, it'll be interesting to see if there is mention of how the Caucasian bloodline got mixed into this melanated bloodline. Okay. All right. So we're going to say, yeah. Okay. King Constantine III was the great grandson of Kenneth Alpine. Okay. And so we saw him, if we jump back over here, under the House of Alpine or Alpine. You see him here. Okay. All right. That was Constantine. Sorry, Constantine, but you still saw Constantine. Okay, so now we're on Kenneth III. Okay, so Kenneth III, the Christian converted Black Moorish king, Kenneth III, AD 997 through 10004, was also called Kenneth the Black. Was the son of Kenneth the Niger. I mean, that would make sense. He succeeded his cousin, Constantine III, and ruled Scotland for 24 years before his son, Jerick. Now, this tripped me out, y'all, to learn this. What we would call Jerick today, or Garrick today, was really Greg or Gregory, was conquered and taken out in battle at Monzivard by his cousin Malcolm II. Ciao. All males of the house of Kenneth III were taken out except for Lulac, the son of the king's granddaughter, Gruch, who later married King Macbeth. Child, now you know, y'all, that threw me right there. We gonna get to this. Okay, not the fact that all the males were taken out, because we talked about that earlier, and is why they had to put laws on the books that other distant relatives can sit on this throne, and that the throne can be passed down through bloodline. And why they were doing that was to make sure that the assets or the estates stayed in the hands of family members. All right. But what threw me was the whole Macbeth thingy. We're going to get into that rather. Her son, Lulac, became king, but was soon taken out by Malcolm III. Kenneth was also called Don or Don, meaning black complexion. The name Don is also the short for Donald. Yep. He was also called the Grim, meaning Niger. King Kenneth III is an ancestor of Elizabeth II, and we know that. So, which is the great grandfather of Kenneth MacAlpine. All right, so this is Kenneth IV, the Christian converted Moorish Scottish king, Kenneth IV, who was also called Jarek II or Gregory or Greg. That still just trips me out. So y'all carrying that first name, Jarek. Child, that really means Greg or Gregory. Was the son of Kenneth III and grandson of Kenneth the Niger. He and his father jointly ruled Scotland from AD 1004 to 1005. They were taken out at the Battle of Montserrat by a relative named Malcolm II. This king was a distant kin to This king was distant kin to Kenneth MacAlpine. Okay, so that goes back to what they were saying earlier, why they had to put that law in place, that they can bring in other distant family members to sit on these thrones. All right, so this is just a little get up. And shout out again to the author, Dr. John L. Johnson. This book, again, is The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isle. Just excellent body of work. I just think it was very, very well done. I am really excited to go back to the beginning of these monarchs and kind of step through this lineage and seeing the various connections on the surnames, and also how the different houses, and let me go back over here, how these different houses were established as well. So excellent work. All right, so, and I also dig these little notes that he put at the end. So this one, the British call the Moorish Kenneth Grim, meaning black. In the Greek Septuagint, I know I'm not pronouncing it right. So, and Geneva Bibles, these African descendants of Ham are also called Moors. Okay, so ancient historians labeled the kings of Africa the kings of the South. All right, so all you Bible scholars out there, go on and dust your Bibles off and cross-reference this stuff. All right, Jesus called the Moorish African Ethiopia Queen of Sheba the Queen of the South. And he said Matthew 12:42. The prophet Daniel's prophecy of the king of the South refers to these African Negro Moors, whom also ruled Spain, first called Iberia, Ethiopia. Let me run that for the slow ones in the back, because anybody that knows just a little bit of true history knows that the Moors ruled Spain. So now, as far as the biblical part of it, I can't vouch for that because I'm not up in the Bible like that. So those that are, you all can certainly verify that piece. But Prophet Daniel's prophecy of the kings of the South refers to these African Negro Moors whom ruled Spain, first called Iberian Ethiopia. Okay, so for the slow ones in the back, what was Spain originally called? Iberian Ethiopia. From AD 711 to 1492. They were expelled from Spain by white kings of the north. So that's coming out of Daniel. Some Western historians give a different account. Of course they do. Okay, so for those of you that are into the Bible, cross-reference that and drop your comments on this vid and let me know your thoughts on that. But now I will always look at kings and queens of the South as different. This is very, very interesting. Okay. So let's get to Malcolm. Okay, so let's go back. So Kenneth, I'm going to just real quick go back to this. So you see Kenneth there under Kings and Queens of Scotland. So you can see Kenneth there. Okay. So let's go to Malcolm. Okay, so Malcolm II, the converted Christian Negro king, Malcolm II, the son of Kenneth II, became ruler of Scotland in AD 1005 after taking out his cousin Kenneth III, the son of Kenneth the Niger. King Malcolm II was the last king of the House of Alpine, which lasted 197 years. They ruled almost 2 centuries. Okay, so Malcolm was the last king out of the House of Alpine or Alpine. Remember, they were the first house that started the empire that we know today, ruling Scotland and Britain. Okay. All right. So he was the great-great-great-grandson of Kenneth MacAlpine or Alpine. Well, it's really MacAlpine. His blood descendant, Duncan I, continued to rule Scotland under the new dynasty called Dunkeld. So I put a note here to refresh the fam's memory. Remember, the house of Dunkeld came in from marriage to one of the previous king's daughters. Okay, so that's how that house was established. Okay. Malcolm II's, yeah, we know that it continues to flow through. I ain't mad at you, Dr. John L. Johnson. You just want to remind people that if folks gonna sit on that throne today, and if they're saying they are of the original bloodline, then you have a lot of melanated blood running through your system. Okay, so it's just once again reminding people that he is the 28th great-grandfather of Elizabeth II. Okay, so the king fathered 2 daughters, Dunanda and Bethach, mother of Duncan I. He transitioned in AD 1034 from an injury. So let's just go back again and show you. Let me just make sure we're on Malcolm. As you can see, he's the last kings out of the House of MacAlpine, okay, which was started by Kenneth MacAlpine. Okay. All right. So let's get into Duncan I. The Catholic Duncan I, and I wonder if he was the first Catholic to sit on the throne. Because, that's just, maybe I'll try to see if that's the case. But anyway, the Catholic Duncan I ruled Scotland from AD 10th. You know what? I bet you he is. Because he is. Sorry, family, I had to drink a little bit of water. Because that, if Malcolm II was the end of this line from the House of MacAlpine and then the House of Dunkeld, remember I told you this house, I didn't tell you, but Dr. John L. Johnson, actually, it wasn't even in his stuff. I found it through other research that the House of Dunkeld, it was through marriage to one of the daughters. Okay, so this name, Dunkeld, is not originally from the lineage MacAlpine. It is one of the daughters' married name. or maiden name. It is her married name. It's her husband's name. So Duncan I may well be the first Catholic ruler. All right. So, okay, he ruled under the Dunkeld dynasty. He was the son of Crenan of Dunkeld and the Alpine princes. Oh, Beatrice. Yeah, okay, any Beatrice out there. Although that's an old school name. All right. So I think that name Beatrice is probably was with my grandma and them. Yeah. So I don't think too many people are carrying that Beatrice name today. It's kind of old school. But anybody y'all know carrying that Beatrice name, and you know, I know melanated people shorten it to B. It comes from Bethach. So Bethach really meant, wow. So Beatrice really meant Bethach. So Princess Bethach, the daughter of Malcolm II, who was the nephew of Kenneth the Niger. Okay, so just to make sure, and I'm sorry for getting off track. I apologize up in advance on the little name. So again, Duncan I, he was the first one under the Dunkeld dynasty. He was the son of Crenan of Dunkeld and the Alpine princess Beatrice, the daughter of Malcolm II, who was the nephew of Kenneth the Niger. Okay, so he was ruling basically up under that his dad's name. Okay, but he's sitting on the throne on behalf of his mother, Princess Beatrice. Okay, but he's the nephew of Kenneth the Niger. Okay, the name Duncan, now I learned this new, you all. The name Duncan means a son of a black or dark-skinned warrior. Duncan was killed, dang, I didn't mean to say that because YouTube can get funny, by his cousin Macbeth at the Battle of Bothgonawan and was succeeded by Macbeth. Okay, so he is the 27th great-grandson of Elizabeth II. The king was the father of Malcolm III and Donald III. So that name, Duncan, means son of a black or dark warrior. I'm like, really? So I just did a quick etymology search. And Duncan, surname, meaning brown, dark. And so they're saying also mean head. And I think that's where people be trying to put the hijack in, that it only means dark hair. But you leave out the other part that they bring onto that. So meaning brown warrior. I guess you forgot that part also. When you all want to talk about these adjectives, when it talks about dark or brown, you want to refer to head, but you leave out the other descriptives. Okay, so dun, adjective, Old English dun, dingy brown, dark colored, Gaelic dun, dull, dark brown, dark, Welsh, brownish. From pi, donos, dark. As a noun, dun, color. Okay. Let me see. Yep, and so then it just verifies it here again. The dun also is likely the origins of the surname Dunn, Dunn, and Dunning, etc. All right. So I was like, okay, I done sat here and learned something new. So that's cool. So those of you that's carrying that surname Duncan, it means black, or it means son of a black or dark-skinned warrior. And it's coming from the king Duncan I, who ruled under the house of Dunkeld. All right? Let's continue. Let's get into Macbeth. Now, it's just me, and I'm okay with saying this. I never knew that the whole Macbeth thing really was about a ruler. Child, I didn't know that. I just thought it was about the Shakespearean fictional writing, which now all of this is starting to make sense on the other parts that you hear folks saying that Shakespeare was melanated and the characters that Shakespeare was speaking of were melanated. Now, we do know that popular history today says that the characters Shakespeare were writing about, he was writing about the royal European families. And even some say Shakespeare was a melanated woman. Okay, but we'll get into that later on a later drop. Okay, so I was really interested on this one, Macbeth. The Catholic Macbeth ruled Scotland from AD 1040 to 1057. He was the son of Finlay and the Alpine princess Donata, the daughter of Malcolm II, who was the nephew of Kenneth the Niger Dub. Macbeth took out the ruling king, Duncan I, and became ruler for the next 17 years before he was slain at the Battle of Alpine by Malcolm III, the son of Duncan I. Baby, they wasn't playing. Like, okay, don't think I'm finna sit up here and forget what you done to my family member. Now, let's be clear. We're reading through the lineage of these folks, and they are family members. Okay? So that would be like, your cousin and them. That's like your mother's brother's child or whatever. And you sitting on the throne like, lee-dee-dee-dee, fly that flee. And your cousin come take you out. Macbeth was considered to be a decent ruler since he practiced fair government. He is also known for visiting the Pope of Rome and distributing gifts to the poor. The king's wife was Alpine Princess Grouch, who was the great-granddaughter of Kenneth the Niger. The elegant princess and queen Grouch was Shakespeare's immortalized Lady Macbeth. So, I am once again inclined to believe that this particular house, the house of Dunkeld, this is how the Catholic bloodline or whatever and ideology made it into the royal houses. So let's just jump back over to archive.org, and then I did a couple other things on Macbeth too. Okay. All right, so you see there's Duncan. So remember, this is the house of Dunkeld, and I am inclined to believe that this is where the start of the Catholic religious, and really remember in these times when we're talking about these different religions, you also have to equate it to political power. Okay? So the political power of the Catholics came in at this point, at the Dunkelds. All right? So there's Macbeth, and you see Macbeth took out Duncan. Yeah. So that's that part. So let's jump over to pull a couple of things on Macbeth, because that tripped me out. All right. So Macbeth. Now I just want y'all to know, when I first searched Britannica for Macbeth, I saw what came up: fictional character, this, that, and the third. I'm like, oh, okay, really? Britannica, that's how you gonna roll? So finally, I was able to get Macbeth, King of Scots. So it says, Macbeth, King of Scots from 1040, the legend of whose life was the basis of Shakespeare's Macbeth. He was probably a grandson of Kenneth II. Now, probably is what they sitting up here saying. Probably. And he married Gruch, a descendant of King Kenneth III. About 1031, Macbeth succeeded his father, Fenlich. Oh, they even give who that was in Shakespeare. And y'all, I'm not into Shakespeare. So is that Sinel in Shakespeare? As Mormaer, or chief in the province of Moray in northern Scotland. Macbeth established himself on the throne after taking out his cousin, King Duncan I, in a battle near Elgin. Not as in Shakespeare, by taking out Duncan in bed on August 4th, 1040. Okay, so they're pretty much admitting in here that Shakespeare Macbeth was actually about Macbeth, King of Scots. Both Duncan and Macbeth derived their rights to the crown through their mothers. Yep, because their mothers were the original. Let's just flip back. They were the original royal bloodline that started the rulership in Scotland and consolidating the kingdoms. They were MacAlpines or MacAlpines. All right. Okay, but the Duncan or Dunkeld name, or that house, came through marriage. Macbeth's victory in 1054 over a rebel army near Dunkeld in modern region of Perth and Kinross may account for the later references in Shakespeare's and others to Burnham Wood, for the village of Burnham is near Dunkeld. In 1046, Siward, that's interesting, Earl of Nondrumbury, or Brea, unsuccessfully attempted to dethrone Macbeth in favor of Malcolm, elder son of Duncan I. By 1050, Macbeth felt secure enough to leave Scotland for a pilgrimage to Rome. But in 1054, he was apparently forced by Siward to yield part of southern Scotland to Malcolm. 3 years later, Macbeth was taken out in battle by Malcolm with assistance from the English. Now, I pause with this Siward name because I have seen in the records this name, Siward, Seaward, linked back to, it is in the lineage of the Stuart Ross lineage. Okay, so I'm just wondering if this is the same Siward bloodline, just a derivative. Okay. All right, so it's just telling where Macbeth was buried on the island of Iona, regarded as the resting place of lawful kings, but not of usurpers. Child, they don't be playing around. His followers installed his stepson, Lulac, as king when Lulac was taken out. So we're going to get into Lulac in a second. right? So Macbeth, y'all should know who Macbeth is about. It's the tragedy in 5 acts by William Shakespeare, written sometime in 1606 to 1607, and published in the first folio of 1623 from a playbook or transcript of one. Some portions of the original text are corrupted. Peep this. Some portions of the original text are corrupted or missing from the published edition. The play is shortened of Shakespeare's tragedy without diversion or subplots. It chronicles Macbeth's seizing of power and subsequential destruction, both his rise and fall, the result of blind ambition. Okay, so most of us have heard of Shakespeare and Macbeth, but I'm not finna even sit here and lie. I did not know that it was really based on an actual Macbeth king, okay, which also proves the point of folks saying rumors that Shakespeare was melanated and the folks that Shakespeare was writing about was melanated. Okay, so let's jump back over here. So that's Macbeth. Okay, the Christian Moorish king Malcolm III, who had Pictish blood in his veins, ruled Scotland from AD 1058 to 1093 under Canmore, Great Chief dynasty. He was the son of Duncan I, who was the grandson of Malcolm II, the nephew of Kenneth the Niger. The name Duncan means son of the black-skinned king warrior. Yes, or dark-skinned king warrior. All right, the House of Canmore, as was the House of Alpine, was full of family violence. When Malcolm III met his untimely death from a fatal wound to the eye, his brother, Donalbain III, succeeded him, and he was later overthrown by his nephew, Duncan II. Child, that's all they did was take each other out. The older son of Malcolm III. It was not so, doggone it, child. It was not long afterwards that Duncan II was slain by his half-brother Edmund, which enabled Donald III to resume the occupation of his throne. Child. The 60-year-old Donald III was finally dethroned by Duncan III's half-brother Edgar, who was the second son of Malcolm III. Edgar lived a secure life, and when he died, his rule was divided between his two brothers, Alexander I and David I. Alexander I was the fifth son of Malcolm III and was said to be very religious as well as brutal. When Alexander I died, his younger brother David I succeeded him. Now, I forgot to jump back over here because in his work, Dr. John L. Johnson's work, The Negro Rulers of Scotland and British Isles, he actually skipped one of the kings. Because remember, we're down here. So we did Duncan I, son of a black warrior. We did Macbeth. So after Macbeth was Lulac. So he skipped Lulac. And I'm like, okay, well, what's up with Lulac? So I had to go see what was up with Blood Lulac. So this is just all I found on Lulac. Lulac, King of Scotland, his followers installed his stepson Lulac as king, and they're talking about Macbeth. So when Macbeth got taken out, Lulac was installed. He was a stepson. Okay. So let me just see. Did I find something on Lulac over here? Yeah, I did. So I found more on Lulac over here. Lulac was nicknamed the Fool. Child, they are a mess. Lulac was the king of Scots between 1057 and 1058. He appears to have been a weak king and was indeed known as Lulac the Simple or Lulac the Fool. He does, however, have the distinction of being the first king of Scotland of whom there are coronation details available. He was crowned in August 1057 at Scone. Lulac was the son of Gruch of Scotland, Lady Macbeth's. Okay, so that's Lady Macbeth's son. From her first marriage, okay, so that's why that was Macbeth's stepson. From her first marriage to Gilly Comminges Mormaer of Moray, and thus the stepson of Macbeth. Following the death in the Battle of Macbeth in 1057, the king's followers placed Lulac in the throne despite strong resistance from the factions of Cullen III. Lulac ruled only for a few months. That's a doggone shame. The man ruled only for a few months before being assassinated and succeeded by Collium. Lulac was married, although his wife's name is unknown. His son, Senachta, was Mormaer of Moray, while Oengus of Moray was the son of Lulac's daughter. He is believed to be buried with the rest of the Gaelic kings of Scotland on St. Columba's holy island of Iona, in or around the monastery. The exact position of the grave is unknown. Dang, y'all. So let's just see. I did pull something additional on Macbeth on here, but I think we already went over that. Yeah, we went over it, so it wasn't too much. Yeah, but so both of them are accounted for in different sources. It's basically what I want to show the fam on that. So yeah, honey, poor Lulac. Child, he wasn't even poor Lulac. I mean, he wasn't prepared for that. So dang, that's all I could say. So Lulac's mama is Lady Macbeth. Poor Lulac. All right, so we went on to Malcolm III. Okay, so Malcolm III was really after Lulac. Okay. And let's see what else we want to say here. And that's basically that. Let's see if I had anything else on Malcolm III. So this is really Malcolm's real name. Well, he's now known as Malcolm III, but child, I don't know how to pronounce all of this. That's the original name. Muel, Colillium, Mac, Dunachadata, whatever, was king of Scots. He was the eldest son of whoever that is. I can't pronounce this name, honey. I don't know what language that is. While often known as Malcolm Canmore, okay? The earliest epithet applies to him is long neck. It appears that the real Malcolm Canmore was this Mael Collium's great-grandson, Malcolm IV. And I'm calling him Malcolm Canmore. Malcolm Canmore's long reign, spanning 5 decades, did not mark the beginning of the Scoto-Norman age, reign to be seen as extending the authority of Albert kings over the Scandinavian Norse Gael. Now that's interesting. Norse Gael and Gaelic, north and west of Scotland, the areas under the control of the King of Scots did not advance much beyond the limit of Mael Colonium or Malcolm Canmore until the 12th century and 13th century. Malcolm Canmore main achievement is often thought to match that of Alpine in continuing a line which would rule Scotland for many years although his role as founder of a dynasty has more to do with the propaganda of his youngest son, David, and his descendants than with any historical reality. Okay. All right, so I just want to give that additional info on Malcolm III. All right. So let's continue. But what I do want us to remember about Malcolm III, he came from two different sides of rulers. So what we were going over on this Scots clan, it was telling you his other side of the bloodline, which areas that his peeps were ruling from his other side. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so I think that's where we're going to stop because I want to get into the women next time. So I'm just going to highlight. We're going to get into the women next time. So there you have it, family. Child, I know that's a lot. But I hope you all are getting some value out of this. Let me blow this up. Going over the ancient rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. The main source of this particular series is a book, The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isle by Dr. John L. Johnson. So we'll be back earlier this week. We'll drop another one. We'll get into some of the women rulers. I'm excited about that. And we'll take it from there. And thanks so much, family, for being on this journey with me through this information. And thank you to the family that dropped comments, giving additional insight and information. It is much appreciated. Thank you to the family that are sending me information for future content. It is much appreciated. I am still behind. I have still a few little emails to get through, so I haven't forgotten about you. If you want to send me content or information, you can send them at the truthUncompromised@gmail email, or you can send it IM via Instagram or Facebook. So I want to thank everyone on this Saturday afternoon. This is Rhonda with WTUZ Radio Podcast. Peace and love, family.